We're live. Welcome back to the EU Legends. Brendan's not here. So remember, EU Legends Wayback Machine, because I want to upset him with my different, instead of just having one title. And today we're discussing the King Size Annual, the first annual, which is the Long Hunt. Yes. And Al and Brennan should be joining us eventually, but for some reason they're being attacked by the smoke monster in this issue, and they're having some difficulties arriving. So
hopefully the smoke monster doesn't steal their souls in their sleep.
So. Lucas is here. He says hello.
Hello, Lucas. So I like this annual overall. I think it has some problems, some pacing problems in the very beginning, where Luke and Leia are just kind of roaming around this bazaar on a planet. So it's a marketplace, and there's no really rhyme or reason why they're there. They're just having fun, some downtime from being in the ship, going on these missions all the time. So
they do actually give.
Go ahead.
They do actually give a reason here. Where is it? There's a line here. They're there for the. They're stopping for supplies.
Ah, I see. Yes. Provisions.
Yes.
They don't have Amazon direct shipping in the Star Wars galaxy, so they have to go out on foot to this marketplace to get what they need. There's an interesting narrative bubble at the very beginning on the first page.
At this point, the Yavin blockade is still a thing.
Right, the Yavin blockade is still a thing, but it also makes reference to the number of planets in the galaxy and the number of inhabited planets in the galaxy, where it says encompassing millions of star system, thousands of inhabited worlds. So that means less than 1 million inhabited worlds there. And the narrator, as we know, is never wrong. So I thought that was an interesting bit of EU content that we get early on. At least at this point, we get a reference to how big they think the galaxy is at this point. And it's smaller than I would think.
Well, they haven't seen all the galaxy, so a bit ignorant on the size, I suppose.
Right, but it's the narrator saying this. It's not necessarily Luke and Leia.
That's
so,
so this is this is now actually our last episode in the 70s.
Right.
This was, I think, December 1979. So for the next episode, what would that be? Doesn't matter right now, but
we're going back to the LA comics, I believe.
Yeah, I believe it's that. And after that is Han Solo at Star's End.
Right.
So we'll finally be moving on to the 80s.
The great old 80s.
Yeah. Brian Daly's books are very good.
Agreed. Andrew Holmes says, hello. Stars shine. The Earth says hello. Sorry, that was my Charlie the Chocolate Factory reference for the day.
Now, in this issue, I feel weird saying issue. In this annual, we've got Chris Claremont as guest writer. We'll see him again later. And as guest artists, Mike Vosberg and Steve Leialoha, if I'm saying their names right. And Chris Claremont, obviously big name, huge name. Best known for X-Men, among other things. And these two artists, I am not familiar with them. Al might be. He'll be on.
Al might be.
Shortly.
Maybe he can. Maybe when he shows up, he can inform us if they are anybody of note.
For what it's worth, I think they do a pretty good job with the characters. and Luke and Leia are drawn pretty well, even Han when we see him. So there's a lot of neat looking aliens, a lot of good color, at least in this first page here.
Yes,
and
I really,
Chewbacca looks like Chewbacca for once. Doesn't look
Yes.
super weird.
I really like the art in this story. And
Me too.
Yes, I think the colors did a really good job.
Andrew Helm says he thinks this is the best of the Star Wars annuals. I like annual number 3 a little bit better. I think it's probably the second best in terms of ranking for me.
I don't actually like annual 3 very much. I think
We're gonna have some fun times when we get there. Then
I think the art lets down the story in annual 3. I think it falls flat because of it, but it's made up for in issue whatever it was, the one that follows up on that story.
Right. It follows out with the Flint story arc thereafter,
Yes.
but that sort of establishes Flint's backstory. But we'll cover that when we get to it. I agree with you that this art is probably better, and the story in The Long Hunt is pretty good overall. I think it just has some slow points, and it's a little bit slow to develop here in these first couple pages. They have a long, they have a good number of pages to work with. I think this is over 30 pages, being a double feature issue with 2 parts. But we see Luke and Leia. Luke's kind of gawking at one of the ladies in the bazaar there. I'm not sure what she's selling, but she's in a kind of a skimpy dress there. Leia kind of makes fun of him. And then we see the Magistrix of Sky, who is going to be the main villain in the next page.
Yes.
And she has all of these Katamin warriors.
Yes.
Who
Now,
are...
I could be misremembering, but I thought we saw something like these in the Wheel arc.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They remind me of Hedgie from the Duba arc a little bit.
Well, Hedgie has a nice cape, doesn't he?
He does.
That guy's also a bit more ripped.
I don't know. Kind of similar. I guess he's more of a hedgehog than a cat, like these guys.
Which another cat race. And if Brendan was here, he'd be going.
Al's here, let him in.
Yeah, I'm letting him in.
Oh, Al is here.
What's up? How goes it?
We're just
Can you
getting
hear me?
started. We can hear you.
Al, what do you think of this cover?
It is decent. It is pretty good.
I'm not really a fan of the coloring here, but I do like this this here.
Oh yeah, that's always nice. The little starburst, I think it's called.
Yes.
I don't know. The positioning is very nice. Having so he got him in the sun. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
Yeah. So the Magistrix of Sky, she's the villain in this comic. We'll learn later that she is really the first Dark Jedi that we get in the Marvel comics. So she's trained by Darth Vader. She has a history with Han and Han's smuggling buddy that we encounter later on in this story, where she did a smuggling mission and she killed all their crew, and she's after Han for revenge. So that's why she sort of tracks Luke and Leia through this bazaar here, hoping that they go back to the Falcon, which they do. So we'll see that develop. But as she's walking through there, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. So the Inquisitors, they were created for the tabletop RPG, the West End Games one. That wouldn't be a thing yet, right?
No, but not.
No, that's 1987. This is still. Is this 80 yet? Are we in 80?
No, we're in the
This
last.
is 79.
Still 79. So there you go.
Al, do you have anything to say about Chris Claremont or these 2 artists, if you're familiar with them? I'm not.
I'm not familiar with the artists. I am very familiar with Chris Claremont. This issue is not his best work. I can tell it was him who wrote it because the term magistrix is something he applies to Lilandra of the Shi'ar later.
Right.
Or no, it might have been around the same time. It actually, now that I say that out loud, yeah, no, it would have been the exact same time. So if you're reading X-Men, you're reading Star Wars, you're like, wow, really, really like that term, Chris Claremont.
It's like Timothy Zahn with sardonically.
Yes, except much more specific. So much more specific.
Zahn also uses darkly a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the sort of thing that once you start noticing it, you keep noticing it.
And he says point. He has the characters just say point all the time. Which drives me nuts, but
he does. He's got like things that he says. I can't make fun of him too much because I also have things I just repeat constantly. So.
Yep. So we see as the Magistrix walks through with her cat warriors, she bumps into Leia kind of purposefully. Then Luke picks a fight with one of the warriors.
Well, they spot this. They spot this money pouch on the ground,
right.
and
Luke picks it up.
Luke picks it up, and supposedly dropped accidentally.
Yeah, it seems like a setup to me. Yeah,
definitely. Karis, she just wants an excuse to stick the Cataman on them.
Right. She says, "Slay them," and Luke whips out his lightsaber, strikes one of them.
Yes,
and it makes reference to how all these cat warriors are related. They say they're brood mates or something.
Yeah.
So apparently, they're all one big family.
Oh, speaking of brood mates and cat people, hold on. We got Brennan finally.
Oh, no.
What is up, B?
He's the furry guy over here. I'm just kidding. He loves the cat races, though.
Catamans and Cathars are pretty cool. Can you hear me?
The narration for this panel up here, I think this is definitely alluding to some Force use. Because Luke's reaction is instinctive, far faster than he would have believed possible not so long ago. Yeah.
Right. So he says, "Princess, head for the Falcon. I'll be right behind you." Luke tries to hold the cat people off. I think at one point he gets injured. He gets sort of knocked down.
Yes.
On the next page.
And I like this this moment here we get with this the thought bubbles with Karis, where we get a bit of insight into what she's after. She's hoping they'll lead her to Han, and she also mentions the name of the story, The Long Hunt. Though you do not yet know it, the long hunt has begun. Yes.
I really like this would have been the first time we've seen this race. And it will pop up a few times in weird places too, like Lost Tribe, the Sith Spiral and places. But I really like the like sort of gargoyle race that they introduce you. I really think they're a cool addition to the lore.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
I think
for more on the Sakai tree and the Cataman, read Joe Bongiorno's University of Sambra Guide to Intelligent Life article.
That's true. I think the Sky Tree are probably my favorite species introduced in the Marvel comics. It's between them and the Lepi, probably, for me.
What about the Zeltrons? The Zeltrons technically come from here.
Oh, yeah, the
Zeltrons.
That's my favorite edition.
Yeah, Alex, you and I, we definitely just outed ourselves real bad. Right there.
Yeah, we did. Well, the Delilah, or however we're supposed to pronounce her name specifically, she's the number one. Anyway, that's a long time from now. We can move on.
So yeah, Luke gets injured here. Before Luke knows what happened, The warrior's fist rakes his chest, knuckle spikes drawing blood.
Mm-hmm. And then they're about to get killed where Han and Chewie saves them. So Han blasts one of them, and then Chewie knocks the other one, punches him in the chest. Chewie picks up Luke, brings him back to the Falcon, while Han covers their escape. And then Leia cares for Luke, bandages him up. Looks like he has broken ribs or something to me.
I think this might be one of the best Chewies we've seen.
So far, yeah, definitely.
I think all the characters are drawn pretty faithfully here.
I agree.
This looks a lot closer to what was being done with the newspaper strips.
Yes.
You can like even the backgrounds. If you look like that looks more like the backgrounds you'd see, more like maybe more detailed, maybe more like crosshatched and things of that nature, but not as scattershot. If that makes any sense.
I think so. Yeah.
So as Luke is getting cared for by Leia, there's a knock
Marcel's
on...
here. Just wanted to make sure.
What is happening?
Hey,
What's up, sir? Sorry, continue.
there's a knock on the front door of the Falcon, and it's this past smuggler buddy of Han, Katia Imbuli, I think is how you say it.
I do want to quickly add, we get a line here about how Luke and Chewie knew where to find them because R2 caught the alert.
Right, there's spy eyes, so R2 can
Yes.
connect to the airborne security cameras.
Now, spy eyes, that sort of thing, obviously we'd go on to see more of that in, for example, The Phantom Menace, but we also got a bit of that in one of the newspaper strips, Gambler's World.
Right.
And I do find it a bit funny how they give both of the droids credit for helping save Luke and Leia, but really R2 did all the work and 3PO was also there.
Well, just wanted to say, Marcel, thanks for choosing to watch us while you're at work. And same to Scott for always coming on a lot of times while he's at work.
Hey.
Oh, yeah, be quiet.
And yes, we meet this old smuggling friend of Han's, Katia Mabule, and apparently also possibly ex-girlfriend.
There's a lot of those. There's a lot of those going around.
Yeah. Han was, he just got around back in the day. Really did.
I mean, it was
I
the
don't think we
70s.
have much. Yeah, I don't think we have much about her in any novel or anything.
Yeah.
She might be mentioned in A.C. Crispin's books. I don't remember,
I
but
hope so.
she's definitely not a big important one out of all the girlfriends he's had.
Now,
She's also in the new canon as Santa Staros.
So we get another slightly awkward moment here with Luke doesn't reply, and for the umpteenth time, Luke Skywalker thinks of his attraction to she and wonders how she truly feels about him, she being Leia.
The shipping in the 70s, they really needed to cool it down.
I mean, I was talking about this with Scott and Robert before we've gone on, and it's crazy how much Leia will go from like straight up flirting with Luke or kissing Luke to straight up flirting with Han and kissing Han prior to Episode 5, and how even here she seems, there's or at least it's Luke who suggests, are you a little bit jealous? And then
Yes.
Luke's still hoping for his sister to be with him. Of course, he doesn't know, so I can't really hold it against him. But it's just a whole bunch of awkward in this era.
Yes, there's a sequel coming out to that film that you liked. Will Leia end up with Luke or Han? Who knows? We're going to hedge our bets a bit here.
Well,
Right.
if the EU ever got continued, or if somebody wanted to write a canon accurate short story about Han Solo and her, I would be down for that.
Yeah.
Not to linger more than necessary on this page because we do need to get a move on. But this bit Luke says here, bald except for a silver crest. So not bald then, because I mean,
Right. She's kind of got
Yeah, she's
Kinda
got
halfway.
like a mohawk thing going. She's got she's got some that Storm would later wear in the 80s.
yes.
right. And
Brandon's
Luke
looking like
does
Matt right
refer
now.
Luke does refer to her as beautiful there, right in front of Leia. I think he's trying to throw some shade there at Leia, trying to make her jealous a little bit. But
Man,
then
Luke,
we
we'd
go
really
on to
prefer if you didn't.
we go on to the next scene, which is probably my favorite, where this smoke demon
Yes.
comes into the ship and starts trying to steal people's souls. So
And when Luke mentions the Majestrix of Sky, her name is Karis, Han, we don't know the full story there yet, but Han treats that as serious business and goes out to do something. See a man, ask some questions, call in some old debts. He asks Katya to stay, and she says, "You know I could never refuse you anything, you handsome lug." So, yeah, I think definitely they were a thing at one point.
They
But also-
definitely, as Negan from The Walking Dead would say, they did the freaky deaky.
it's heavily inferred.
Also-
So Luke describes
also,
his account of how he gets injured, and that's how Han finds out about the Magistrix of Sky, who he immediately recognizes as his old enemy. So he has to go out and find out what the matter is. Conveniently enough, the Katya and Buell was his partner on the mission where they got away from the Sky Tree lady. So
yes, I do like this brief sort of Batman moment that Han gets.
Yeah, it's some nice expanding the universe of just Han Solo as a person. I think that's pretty cool, especially this early on.
Yes. Now, the smoke demon is probably my favorite thing about this story.
It's probably the most wild thing, the most thing that even though we learn that the winged lady is a dark Jedi, the fact that she's able to do this is quite like I mean, I guess she's dabbled in some Sith sorcery because this isn't a typical thing that dark Jedi just do. So
And
I
you
don't
get an interesting little character moment here with Chewbacca where it goes, an unusually disgruntled Wookiee does a late guard tour. Chewbacca and Solo are as close as two beings can get. They've saved each other's lives more times than either cares to count. Yet this evening, for the first time, Han refused to confide in his first mate. And though Chewbacca would die before admitting it, Han's actions hurt.
right. So Han doesn't tell Chewie where he's going, but he tries to get intel from this Lasker, I guess is his name,
Yes.
that he points a gun at in his sleep. But the smoke demon, I mean, it could be Sith magic or Sith sorcery that causes him to appear, or it could be something inherent to his species, whatever species that is, because we'll find out as Luke stabs him with a lightsaber, he's a physical being. He's not like a ghost or anything. He can die.
He's physical sometimes.
I would like it noted that the first person of color, as far as I know, in the Marvel series, I think we've kind of confirmed this, dies within 2 pages.
Yes,
Because
that is
2 pages she
unfortunate.
exists, and then
so
got her.
typically the 70s and 80s. Look at
Second,
the horror movies.
after the woman from the holiday special.
In the Marvel, I should say in the Marvel comics. Although, yeah, no, she's also the second. Technically, if we want to say that was an AI, which I think we confirmed that, first living a woman.
Maybe possibly based on a real person. We don't know, but
Yeah, but still.
But
that's,
Katya, it is unfortunate. I do like Katya.
Yeah, and
they,
she doesn't
they kind
just
of do
die.
a 2.0 of her as
She does in a horrible
Solid
way.
Snake
Ceases to
in Dark
exist.
Empire.
Sort of, yeah, with Salazan, kind of similar character.
Similar character, and they don't kill her immediately, which is nice.
Yep, that's true. But hey, at least we know
Great.
from this that Han has a wide range of taste.
Very true. But this smoke demon can enter into the pores of somebody and just absorb their body, steals their souls, basically. So all that's left is her clothes and her boots there. She's completely gone. And then
It
Luke
does that while she's paralyzed and, as it says,
Yeah, it's kind of
conscious but
awful.
helpless. It's horrible.
It's terrifying, actually. Like you're just sleeping. Next thing you know, you can't move. It's like a sleep paralysis demon, but it actually kills you.
And then we got, then it like takes physical form here and looks like the thing from Fantasia.
Yeah.
Yes. We get a heroic moment from Chewbacca. Even if
so blasters don't work on it, but lightsabers do.
I have in my notes from when I first read this, I had this noted as first time Chewie was warped. Would you guys agree with that? Do you think that was reasonable? That sort of push aside.
What do you mean by warped?
Like, you remember how in Next Generation, when they needed to show that the bad guy was super serial, they
just have Worf get his butt kicked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments is when you turn on a TNG episode and Worf just goes flying over a desk for no reason.
Oh, yeah.
I would say this is the first example of that. For sure.
That's fair.
yes,
But I guess I agree.
I like how accurate the lightsaber design is in this story.
Yeah. Well, it's 79. They should know at this point. I'm becoming quickly less forgiving of people getting the details wrong. As time passes.
Surely by this point they have like actually I don't know how the 70s and the 80s worked in terms of like trailers, but I'd assume there'd be like a teaser or something in theaters. But I don't know how it works back then.
This
For
panel
the
here, I really like.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
The smoke.
The way they're colored, though. Okay, Robert. The way they're colored, though, that does make them look slightly naked. And now I'm less.
I thought of that too when I read it last night.
Yeah.
The creature dies without audible sound, yet the psychic scream that echoes and re-echoes in Luke's mind will stay with him till he dies.
That's a very Claremont sentence.
Actually, also with this, I don't remember. There's so much in Supernatural Encounters, but I mean, it's either some Sith thing or it's a species that we don't know a lot about, but I don't remember seeing anything anywhere about this species, or it's something else entirely that's more spiritual. But
Luke says here, or thinks here, that demon was a creation of the Force, given life by someone whose power rivals Darth Vader's.
Right. So it could be some crazy mutant species, but I think there are at least a few documented species that can reappear, that are like phantoms that appear out of nowhere and become physical.
Isn't that the Defils? Is that what they're called?
Yes.
Defils might be one of them, but I think there's one that like appears as smoke, similar to this one. He's not like a demon looking character as I remember. Yes, that one.
Yeah,
I think that's from West End Games, so it's
that
later.
Is from West End Games. It's from a unidentified planet called that was just a series of letters and numbers. It's a really cool concept. When we get to the West End Games stuff, we'll probably talk about it more. But the idea is that it was an imperial planet. It was just given a designation, and they told people don't go there. There's demons.
Right.
Kind of a cool concept.
Yeah, and it says when it dies, the souls of its victim trapped within that monster are finally free. Kind of similar to the Rusan battle site.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
That is a good one.
So this moment here, this brief reference we get, he looks as bad as he did, almost as bad as he did that time his mind accidentally touched Darth Vader's. That was as
couple issues ago.
Says here, way back in issue 18. That was at the very beginning of the Wheel arc when Luke ends up in a coma.
Right.
So they didn't have to do this. I like that they included that.
Yeah.
Because
continuity.
often, annuals tend to be very sort of self-contained.
Sure.
I mean, this is a pretty self-contained story, to be fair, but it takes the time to make sure that it is still placed properly.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I ran into my fair share of completely irrelevant, worthless annuals at the tail end of New Teen Titans, where it's every single one. Anyway, keep going. I'm gonna start talking about New Teen Titans if you're not careful.
So Han comes back and discovers that his friend was killed, devoured by the demon, and at that point they escape the planet. They leave, and Han tells both Luke and Chewie, I guess, I don't know if Chewie was with him on that smuggling mission, but how the Skytree woman killed his entire crew, and they were the only two that escaped, and there's been this vendetta going ever since.
I'm not sure we've ever really seen a moment like this from Han before. This is serious business.
Mm-hmm. Blames himself, beats himself up a little bit.
Yes. And there's another reference here somewhere. Where was it? Oh, yes. Han lifts the Millennium Falcon out of the planetary atmosphere at full throttle, barely missing a House of Tag starliner on final approach.
That's interesting.
Not
continuity.
Not relevant to this story, but it is a nice touch. Now, this annoys me, this panel layout here, where you start at the top, as you normally would, but then move down to the top right, and then down to here.
Right.
And they've got these little arrows to try to mitigate the confusion that would normally result from that. But still, it's irritating.
Right. But that's a pretty cool picture. We get to see the Skytree in flight. Kind of like Batman.
She and her people hunted us, 20 men and women, Corellians all, as tough and dangerous a crew as ever raised a ship together. Only Katya and I escaped. Also, the planet is called Marat 5, known to its inhabitants as Sky.
Lucas doesn't look like a phone cover.
He also says clothes are immune to the smoke demon attack. Yeah, very true.
That is
Did
true.
y'all already mention how, because of the Skytree connection and Skywalkers by Abel G. Pena, this annual feels a lot more special?
Yeah, I was going to talk about it once we got to the part with the what would be a contradiction if not for the story. When we got there. But you mentioned it, so I'll just make sure. I skimmed the story. I didn't read all the way through it because we're not going to discuss that for like another 6 or 7 years.
You're a little bit underwater.
Can't hear you too well.
Hello?
I can barely hear you. Yeah.
Am I better now?
Yeah, better.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the smoke demon death, that's obviously meant to be sort of invoking the same sort of thing as Obi-Wan's death in A New Hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd say that's
I was going to say, I'm hurt now, right?
yeah.
Yes.
I was just going to say, since Brendan mentioned it, I was going to mention it later, I'll just mention it now. I skimmed the Skywalker story. I didn't want to read it all the way through because we're not going to discuss that in full till 6 or 7 years down the line when we eventually get there, if not longer.
Probably 20 years.
Whenever we get there, but it's going to be a long time anyway. But I thought I mentioned as we go through the story, there is a contradiction where, because this was written, before episode 5 had come out, that this same planet in the past during the Clone Wars, that Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and another pupil of Obi-Wan Kenobi's went to before, which the implication is that the other pupil was Luke's father, and Darth Vader is just Darth Vader, obviously.
Right.
And of course, we know that Anakin and Darth Vader are one and the same. So in 2015, after Disney bought the rights, Abel G. Pena released a short story titled Skywalkers, which basically explained the contradiction and fixed it, explaining for a short period of time during the Clone Wars, I think because the other Jedi, who I think is supposed to look like Abel G. Pena, his master or something died.
Alagad Ventor.
Right. And so for a short time, Obi-Wan took him on as well as a pupil, and then they went on that adventure together.
First of all, that's a brilliant continuity save right there.
Right. Yes.
And of course, it's building on the Republic comics, which had already established that apprentices whose masters died got temporary new masters during the Clone Wars. So building on that, it made extreme logical sense why you could use that to solve the contradiction. But going back to the original story, the original concept, the whole idea that Obi-Wan, Vader, and Luke's father all visited the same place together as a group. I think that obviously they couldn't know that the twist that Vader is Luke's father, but in a pre-Empire world, I think that is a great story idea.
I think
Isn't
so
it?
too.
Like the fact that they wanted to say that this happened and build on this with original lore. I love the idea that if Vader and Luke's father were separate individuals, that they both were there together with Obi-Wan. It creates this tapestry, this idea of a shared history that's going back way longer than the current events. And so I really like what they were going for.
And you got to think
I
about
think
this
the
too.
continuity save really works too. So
You
I
got-
think it's great.
And you got to
Right,
think this is early enough too. So I think back when, I think George was keeping up with this stuff back then. And we know for sure he had to at least know the synopsis of this plot before allowing it to go through, as he did with every story in the EU. But I know back when he did actually read a lot of these, especially the comics. So this is definitely like a George was okay with this idea of them going on an adventure prior or during the Clone Wars. So I think that's also really, really sick.
Well, it's just sort of reference. It's not. I don't think they had any idea that so many years later, Abel G. Pena would actually
Well, no,
tell
of
the
course not.
story that's referenced
Of course
here.
not, yeah.
It just gives additional information for the Magistrix of Sky's backstory and how she became an apprentice of Darth Vader. Unfortunately, we don't get all that information until the end of this issue, which for me is sort of a shortcoming of this comic. It doesn't say that, it doesn't speak to you that this information is as important until you're done with the issue, and it makes you want to go back and reread it knowing what you know at the end. And I guess maybe that was the intention, but I didn't know when I first read this, or maybe I forgot because it's been years since I read this for the first time, that this lady was a Dark Jedi under Darth Vader.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
So rather than continue to run from Karis, Han decides, okay, I'm just going to go to Sky and deal with this. And he doesn't know that Karis is, that he's doing exactly as she had hoped. And
Right.
she sends them.
She
sends
appears
them
as
these
a
sort of-
hologram there inside the ship,
Yeah.
which is kind of
She
strange.
sends
I don't
them
know if that's Sith
the
powers or...
She sends them the obligatory evil villain, you are going to die message.
Right.
And then they get attacked by TIEs. They get shot down. The gravity goes. And they almost but not quite crash on Sky.
So it's not going on the counter just yet.
No.
Well, we don't actually know what happens to the Falcon. It presumably gets captured, but Luke and Leia and the droids get out in an escape pod and land on
Yes.
the planet.
I do like this, what for me was an unintentionally funny moment where here it says, the Falcon disappears into the massive cloud formations that shroud Sky's majestic mountain peaks, and then here the TIE pilot says, atmospheric turbulence precluded continued close pursuit. So clouds were in the way, and you didn't want to bother with that.
What, of the escape, of the pursuit of the escape pod?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, of the Falcon.
Okay. Because we see a couple, toward the right there, second to bottom panel. We see the Falcon presumably get destroyed there, where it gets lit up and all the fighters are shooting at it.
I think this is a really solid 3PO.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So Luke, Leia, and the droids get they're put into the escape pod and shot onto the surface. And then Luke, he's unconscious at this point. He wakes up later.
Right.
And they're in a cell. And they're visited by this guy, one of the Skyewalkers. And that is where part 1 ends.
Right. And he also says that you are walkers, which is a reference to Skywalkers later on, but that's the fact that they're humans, they don't have wings. But he also, when he reveals his name, Skywalker, that's some sort of prophecy that this race has that knows that he's going to defeat the evil woman in charge, the Dark Jedi, and set them free, set the planet free from the Empire.
So this is Ara, Lord of the Highlands, Patriarch of the Skyewalkers, the Windborn. In the name of the Council, I greet you and summon you to trial.
I was gonna say Lucas Gerson also makes a point that the males are blue and the females are green, which is a cool detail for the species.
That is neat.
And some of them wear the same trunks as
The Sanbra Guide by Joe Bongiorno goes more into that as well, which is cool.
Is that universally the case, or is it more of a Twi'lek thing? Because there are lots of different subtypes of Twi'lek.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. Part 2, a duel of eagles.
I like how the trunks on the Sakai tree are the same trunks as the Cataman warriors wear. At least that one guy in the very middle there, in the green.
Yes. Al, does this remind you of anything?
Question mark, Kane?
Yes.
So, how are y'all pronouncing the species? Because I've been listening, and y'all have been saying Sakai tree. Is that right? What y'all have been saying?
I've been following what Robert says. I thought it was Sky Tree, but
That's
guess
what I always said too. I always ignored the apostrophe and just blazed on through. But again, Star Wars pronunciations are so subjective, right? I really like the sound. I really like. So I always said Sky Tree, but I really like the sound of it when Robert's been saying Sakai Tree.
Yeah, me too.
They'd be good psychiatrists, I guess, because that's what the word is reminding me of. But I think it sounds really cool, the way you're saying it. So
I think we should
go back to switch up.
Yeah, we should go back and forth, just like the name of our podcast. EU.
Oh, true.
Got to cover our bases.
I still call Delilah.
Got to cover our bases, as Alex always says, right?
I did. I said it at the beginning just to spite you.
You always do. It's like the slogan now.
Yeah, a little bit.
When it comes to Star Wars pronunciations, I am like a bull in a china shop. I do not care. I am not going to. This is not one of those things where I'm willing to be corrected. I'm just say whatever, and it's going to be completely wrong, and it's not even going to be somewhat recognizable what it's supposed to be. That's how it's going to be. So for me, these are the skies, the sky peoples. They're up there.
Yeah, I always said Sky Tree for years, but I really like Sakai Tree as well. I think that sounds really cool. So, sorry.
Well, technically, Robert he's going to be the Star Wars voice man, so maybe he's got the authority on how we should pronounce these things.
Well, I'm just pronouncing it that way because of the apostrophe between
the
S.
And I think you're right. I think we're all just too lazy to properly say how it's supposed to be.
Right. So they go on trial, and Luke sort of explains himself. And on the next page, it's very interesting. They have a wanted poster of Leia, Princess, the Senator of Alderaan, for treason against the Empire. Like that's really cool. It's very similar to After the Empire Strikes Back, where the Mandalorian holds up the picture of Leia.
Also, is it on this page? Can you scroll down to the bottom for a second? No, the previous page then. My bad. I think this is this feels very Marvel nowadays or something. Like when you think of the movies where Luke's like gonna move to do something, and then in a split second, there's a whole bunch of spear points directed directly at his neck. And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna stay right here. That just felt very like today humor.
I
to
mean,
me.
that is literally what
Right.
happens in Return of the Jedi.
I do like this panel.
They're very pointy spears. It feels
They
like,
are.
you know, when you sharpen a pencil so much, like it might break. I feel like those spears might break if they try to use it on anything. It's a little too sharp, a little too dull.
I think I might have missed it. At
When
some
it comes
point,
to
at some
spears,
point they
better
use.
too sharp than too dull, I guess.
That's probably true. At some point, they use the term imperial legate. I think we missed it. It doesn't really matter. I'm interested by this term. I am interested in what this means in terms of the imperial hierarchy, because I have never seen that. I have never seen that used since, and I never saw that used before. We don't have to find it. That's fine. It is in here somewhere.
Yeah.
The term imperial legate.
Right. They refer to the prefect, the local imperial prefect. So there is an imperial garrison on here, as we'll see later. So maybe that's what they're referring to, like the local imperial governor. That's
And
what
later-
I kinda
Well,
thought.
Later, they use
Karis
the term
operates under
satrapy.
some kind. Karis operates under some kind of imperial oversight, right?
Yeah, she is the leader of the planet, and the planet is a member of the Empire because Vader was there, and I don't exactly know why, but I think it was after Han Solo's mission or something. The planet got taken over by the Empire.
Al was gonna say something.
Well, later
Yes.
on in the issue, they use the term satrapy, which is like that's like an Ottoman term. Is like that's like one of. I think I could be wrong. It's been a while. That is the term for sort of the Ottoman self-sufficient provinces, like the ones that like govern themselves.
Oh, that actually makes sense because I think that's
that's
kind of the
right.
vibe I got. Yeah.
That is one of those things where I say it out loud. That might be wrong. So anybody who has the actual like definition of that term, please throw it out. But from my understanding, that's what that means.
That
And
would
is the
make
term they use
sense.
here.
Yeah,
because they definitely seem to be in charge of themselves, outside of being supervised, I guess.
yeah, they're a member, like self-sufficient planet within the Empire. It's also in keeping with the theme of earlier in the comic, where the planet they start out at that has the bizarre marketplace is named Tehran, like the capital of Iran.
Yeah.
The term legate is a Roman term, which is
That's
interesting.
true.
So
That's
there's
true.
like a couple of different, and magistrix, I'm sure that comes from something. I'm sure that's not something that Chris Claremont came up with on his own.
Yeah.
So it's interesting using all these different terms together. That for some reason, if I were to make a guidebook, if I were to make one of these new essential guide, it would be the new essential guide to like bureaucracy. Because I love knowing like all the different like ranks and all these things and titles. For some reason I find that particularly interesting. So when I first read these, I was like, ooh, new terms that I've not seen used.
Now, this is an interesting moment. This woman comes up to Luke and says, and she's holding his lightsaber and says, "Is this yours?" And he introduces himself as Luke Skywalker, and one of the psychiatry who I like the inclusion of these little. What are the names of these brackets? Doesn't matter. I like the fact that they're speaking in their own language.
Yes.
It's a tiny inclusion, but it helps, build the world more. But
it's also a tiny inclusion that takes zero effort to use and to remember.
Yes.
Right. So this is the prophecy that I referred to earlier. They're asking, is he the one? His name is the same as our wingless blood brothers.
Yes.
But he is so young and virtually alone.
He says, by the dawn wind, I thought that weapon looked familiar.
So this is a reference to, at the end of the story, we hear that Anakin Skywalker was there. So they probably know that name. They probably know the connection to Luke.
Which,
earlier.
if Luke's lightsaber wasn't drawn as well as it is in this story, this moment wouldn't work.
Right.
So-
They wouldn't recognize it. But it is Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber, so
Yes. So then. So we find out what happened to the Falcon. It was captured and taken to Karras's fortress. And
Right.
this is a pleasant surprise to them because until now they thought Han and Chewie were dead. That the Falcon had been shot down and destroyed.
yeah, Luke didn't know because he fell unconscious, but they find out he's being kept captive and being tortured in this tower, which we see on the next page, sort of the standard villain castle, and there's
Yes.
stormtroopers there. Chewie's captured in handcuffs there. Han's on a table, getting smacked around.
This reminds me a bit of that issue of Republic, where Obi-Wan and Alpha are being held captive by Sarge Ventress.
Yep. And the Magistrix knows about Luke Skywalker, that he was the pilot that destroyed the Death Star, and she's using Han as bait. Like, she has a vendetta against Han, sure, but she wants Luke captured by the Empire because Vader is after Luke. So it ties into the kind of overarching story of the Marvel comics here, not just the annual, but the ongoing series.
And we see one of these Imperial interrogation droids. Those are nothing to mess with, as Leia knows.
And then Han and Leia rescue them on glider wings. Batman
Yes.
I
costume.
really like the glider wings. It's a fun way for him to be able to do what he does later in this issue.
It is.
Mhm. Leia falls down. She shoots one of them. Luke shoots several of them. So they bust their way in real quick. They get into the room where the Imperial interrogation droid is working on Han. Leia gets tackled by one of the Cataman warriors. And there's a struggle over the blaster there. Pretty fast paced. A lot of good action scenes here. And
We get
shoots
this
one of them.
brief line from Luke. I flew gliders on Tatooine long before I built my T-16. I'm a lot better with these wings than she is. It's up to me to keep the stormtroopers occupied while she looks for Han and Chewbacca.
Mm-hmm.
So, a bit more about Luke's life on Tatooine.
Right. And then Leia finally gets to the room that Han's in. Chewbacca gets freed. He starts beating up the Cataman warriors. And then Han says to Leia, "Hey, beautiful, remember me?" And then Leia rescues Han here, which I think is the first. He says, "Never
I
felt
just
better."
realized this makes The Empire Strikes Back the second time Han gets tortured.
It is, yeah, for sure. And it's it's the first time that Leia saves Han, but it's very similar to the scene in Jabba's palace where she removes him from carbonite.
Yeah.
Where Han can't walk, Chewie kind of carries him along there, and then Leia says, "All of a sudden, I'm worried." Luke gets into a fight with the Magistrix, and there's a lightsaber fight. So she apparently has a red lightsaber. It's revealed that she's a dark Jedi. I think it's a little late for this revelation. I would have liked to have seen this earlier on in the comic, but there's a pretty...
Lucas Gerson says, Luke says, "It's over, Katie. I have the high ground." Or Caddy, however you say that. I think that's funny. And I also wanted, because before you continue, this is a thing I also mentioned to Robert and Scott earlier, that it's a very, like, I guess, anime mindset I have. I don't know. I have a problem. But if you look at it chronologically speaking, in terms of Luke, he only has a teacher for a little bit in episode 4, and then he only has a teacher for a little bit in episode 5 and 6 with Yoda. And between that time, he kind of has to teach himself. And as we see in episode 4, he only uses the lightsaber a handful of times. Most of the time, he's shooting things. And then throughout the Marvel comics, we've seen him shooting things. And then recently, we had him fight Tag, who is not a Force user, but is pretty proficient with a lightsaber. So he got to get some training, in a sense, by fighting somebody that was capable. And now here he is fighting somebody who's not only capable with the lightsaber, but also has the Force. So he did fight Vader before, but that was with the help of Obi-Wan Kenobi inside of him. So this is him by himself, just kind of getting better. And I think that's a nice, if not emotional, knowledgeable character progression, just a physical character progression of himself in terms of his skill and abilities.
I agree. I think that's a good point.
Yeah. That is. Lucas Gearson says she's a ninja, so she has throwing stars that she tries to use at Luke.
Yes. And they're very, very star-shaped.
They are.
Let me get this moment with Luke thinking, Ben Kenobi hardly had any time to train me how to use this thing before Darth Vader killed him. But it's obvious Karis has been using lightsabers all her life.
And we get to see that they're using the Force by that red circle that Luke deflects the lightsaber bolts, and Karis uses psychic attacks against Luke, which Luke's able to resist. And the fight ends pretty abruptly. He just stabs her with the lightsaber and says the matriarch is dead.
And is this where they, yeah, here it is. This is where they talk about, much later, one of the pupils returned. He told us that Obi-Wan and the Jedi were destroyed by his hand. Then he invoked our oath and made Sky an imperial satrapy. There we go. To be ruled in his name by Karis, to whom he gave a portion of his knowledge and powers. That man was Darth Vader.
I like the hesitation here before calling him a man.
Yes, that is a good catch.
Yes.
What I also like about the Dark Jedi Girl is, we mentioned Inquisitors earlier, but if you want to go further in the timeline, she's a sort of like a proto-Ventress, if you think about it, because Ventress also was never a Sith. She was just trained by a Sith, but she never formally got that apprentice title. And so similar way you have that with this lady here. And then it's also this weird thing, or if we're counting all the expanded universe, you got Starkiller, you got her, you got Ahsoka, all trained by the same person. So I think, and then Lumaya too, I guess. So, but we haven't met her yet. So that's a lot of.
To be fair, we didn't see a lot of Karis's training, so it could have been pretty basic.
Yeah.
I like this moment.
Basic enough that she's able to summon a Force demon, if that's what it is.
Well,
it seems like she's pretty proficient with the Force. It says there's a hologram that appears on the Falcon when the Falcon was approaching the Skytree planet. And I kind of thought that probably was just her manifesting with the Force, not really a hologram.
A Force projection?
Yeah.
Maybe. The only other alternative would be that maybe the smoke demon left a projector there.
Also, so Lucas Sigerson's comment here, I don't even know if I can agree with that. He does fight somebody who's a lightsaber combatant, which is, Tag. Then he fights this lady. Then he fights Vader. I wouldn't call it a fair fight because Vader was very clearly toying with him in episode 5. But I would say when we get to episode 6, then yes, he does have a fair fight with Vader, and even technically beats him once he gives into his anger a little bit. But I don't think episode 5 is a fair fight at all. I think it's very clearly Vader holding back, in my opinion.
Right, at least at the beginning, until he sort of gets injured. Then he kind of goes berserk and tries to knock Luke off that balcony. But this does bring up a continuity point for when Luke loses his lightsaber in The Empire Strikes Back. So here is yet another lightsaber Luke theoretically could have recovered to use, not just Tag's lightsaber, but this lady's lightsaber as well.
Possibly. I like this moment here at the very end where Luke has learned about Karis's history with Obi-Wan and with Anakin, and that they visited Sky at some point in the past. And he says to Leia, "I'm fine, Princess. I've just got some things to think about, some memories to cherish. I never knew my father, but I know now that he was a man to be proud of. I hope I can be half as good."
And while that doesn't age well, because
No,
he will
fair
learn
enough.
later on that
Right.
his father's Vader, there's also a part of this
Yes.
that this does remain the same, because you look at episode 6, and what does Luke say to, sure, Vader's done terrible, awful things, but he says, "I'm a Jedi, like my father before me." So I think that bottom line still works, because he's still
Yes.
proud of the man his father used to be, if not the man he's become.
Maybe that is the memory he is invoking as he says those words in episode 6. It's
Maybe.
like, maybe, if you want to,
Yes.
if you want to be one of those people saying that's what he's saying.
I like the sort of slightly different tone that this moment takes on, so close to Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, it's kind of
And yes,
foreboding now.
Yeah.
False
Yeah, I-
optimism.
The fact that in Return of the Jedi, this is one of the reasons that this is one of the things that makes him think, no, he was a good person at one point, and he can be again.
That's right. And I think it makes a lot of sense to me that this would take chronologically right before Empire Strikes Back, or at least in the lead up to the Empire Strikes Back, because Luke's very proficient in the Force. I mean, we see at the beginning of Empire Strikes Back, he's able to use the Force to get the lightsaber out of the Wampa cave. So this would sort of make sense in that way. On the last page where it shows the drawing of Obi-Wan and the drawing of Darth Vader, it's almost like Darth Vader always looked like that.
Yeah,
Prior to his turning to the dark side. It would have been neat to also see a picture of Anakin, or a drawing of Anakin, what they would have thought Anakin would have looked like. That would have been
but
neat.
they may not have had permission. That also might have been a thing that George Lucas was like, "No, I don't know," So
Well, I think Luke is imagining Obi-Wan and Vader this way because
that's all he knows.
that's all he knows, exactly.
But the thing is, though, for this story, there's a third person, and he doesn't even try to imagine what his father might look like. I guess is the thing.
Right. It
Because
doesn't
right now
necessarily
he
need
thinks
to
it's
be
the third
accurate.
person.
He doesn't have a face for that.
I guess that's true. He wouldn't have a point of reference to even guess. I mean, outside of himself, I guess. He doesn't know what his mom looks like.
We already had young Obi-Wan, or quasi-young Obi-Wan, who didn't really look that young. But
That's true.
Yes.
It would have been cool, but I'm fine
The
with
Duff issue.
this. Yeah.
So what do we think of this story?
Before that, I just was Lucas Gerson says Luke was his own master for a long time, and that's why he encouraged his own students to do the same and learn about themselves too. I think I don't know if that's the idea that the Bantam era people had in mind, like Kevin J. Anderson, but that's an excellent point. If you're trying to include all this and you're in continuity, that would be an interesting point for why he trains his Jedi differently, because his training for so much of his time was so much different from that of any other Jedi. He only properly got trained by Yoda in episode 5 and a little bit in 6. But even then, Yoda kind of dies. He doesn't get a full-on course like the rest of the Jedi Order got in the prequels. So most of it is himself. So I think that's an excellent point for why he would train them that way. But
and he's the only one able to do the training. And obviously you can't train somebody one-on-one. You sort of have to do group lessons. And then from there, have the students learn on their own. He also has those holocrons, I guess, to work off of, but
Yeah.
that's really all he can do.
But that again is still like, everybody's different, but I think there is also a case to be made that the best sort of learning is usually hands-on. Like you can watch, you can listen to a teacher talk for hours and hours, but at the end of the day, they give you homework for a reason, and that's for you to retain it on your own because you have to do the problem solving. So, the holocrons can only do so much, but I think it is true that, group lessons, because he was the only Jedi Master at the time to do so. And over time, he's just like, yeah, you know what? You all should just kind of also figure it out. I have holocrons, you have me, but walk your own path like I did. But yeah, thoughts on the comic.
It didn't work out that way for Gantoris. He turned
No,
into a
it
pilot,
didn't.
trying to teach him on his own. But anyway,
Well,
my
that's
thought,
not an ancient Sith Lord with them, so.
right. So my quick thoughts on the comic overall. I think it had a very good plot. Like the story idea was very good. It was a little slow going at the very beginning. Luke and Leia kind of just wandering through there looking for supplies or whatever. I think a couple pages could have been shaved off that in favor of the action scenes toward the end with the lightsaber fight. I think that a little bit more could have been done with that, but it had its strong moments for sure. I really liked the story. I really liked the characters. It didn't make the most of the amount of pages it had to work with here, being a double length issue.
How about you, Brendan, now that you returned?
Huh?
How do you feel about the comic overall?
Oh, the comic art in this issue?
No,
it's
overall
great.
thoughts.
Yeah.
Overall thoughts.
Overall thoughts on the whole comic?
Yeah.
Like y'all said, it's a pretty self-contained story, but it's a story that I enjoy. I thought Scott made a good point about where it feels like you can care a lot more knowing that she's a Dark Jedi. When I read it, I knew that she was a Dark Jedi going in who was trained by Vader. So I was already very interested in who she was going into the comic just because I'd spoiled myself on Wikipedia. So for me, the comic always felt interesting from the get-go and from the jump. Even though it's self-contained, I think it's a really fun story. It's a really well-told story. I like the Sky Tree or Sakai Tree. I really like the concept of them. I like their culture, and I like the antagonist of the story. With our Dark Jedi here, I thought she was cool, and I like the story all the more for its connections to Skywalkers. I think it's clever. I think it works well. I thought that Luke was good in this, and I also, what was the other thing I wrote down? Oh, Alex made a wisecrack about me being a furry earlier, but in my notes I had just written Catamins are cool, and they are. They're really sick. So
They are cool.
just wanted to throw that out there.
So I'm right. I'm just
I
kidding.
really like this one. I will say, I think it's my favorite of the annuals.
I agree.
I also agree.
We'll go through them and I'll see
Does
where
anyone prefer any of the others?
Yeah, I prefer annual number 3.
Okay.
Better story. I understand the point that was made earlier that the artwork is better here. All the
It's good art,
characters
yeah.
are faithfully represented. The drawing's really good. The color's really good. Battle scenes spectacular. But I just like I'm a little bit more invested into like the Mary Jo Duffy run at that point in the Marvel comic art. So for those reasons, I like annual 3 better.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Robert, I'm starting to infect you with my sayings.
Well, I'm not saying yins yet.
Well, we'll get there.
Well,
We'll
we've
get there.
not radicalized you to be a full American yet, but by episode 100, Robert will be drinking sweet tea while recording the episode
Oof.
and sitting on his porch in a rocking chair. That's our goal.
We can do it. I believe in us.
we got it. We got it.
We'll West Virginia
So-
him.
Oh,
I like the little character moments we get in this story. Those are nice.
Agreed.
And what else?
Totally. The interactions of the main characters here are really well done. I think it's fun. And like y'all said, the art's great.
Again, a shame about what happens to Katya.
Yeah, but that feels like it's kind of just the 70s, not really,
Yeah.
think
Yeah,
like,
I
oh,
was
what
going
if
to say, to balance that out, there is a bit of unfortunate for person of color dying and the first little bit of them existing. But to counterbalance that in terms of equality, we do have, I mean, sure, they're an antagonist, but an antagonist that's on par with the protagonist at this moment in terms of having a female-centered villain who is capable and smart and
Well,
powerful.
yeah, that's
We
not
do have that.
Yeah.
So I think that's something especially for the late 70s. So
She's also a woman of color because she's green.
that is true.
I guess that's true.
She is a color.
Yeah.
I like Chris Claremont, so I like this annual. I like the art. I think this is a perfectly fine story. I enjoyed it. I've never read Skywalkers, so I don't have that context of like
Well,
this
Al,
is good. I
You're
will
gonna
get
appreciate
there
it all the
in
more
a
then
long
by the time
time
we get
from
there.
now. Yeah.
on StarWarsTimeline.net.
I have a physical copy of it.
You have a physical copy? Let's go then.
Yeah,
Well,
so
you
like
can
I
read it
have.
whenever, but for the rest of you guys,
They're
watch it.
totally really sold by Lucasfilm.
Well, yeah, of course.
But yeah, if anybody wants to read Skywalkers for some additional context, it is always available for free on StarWarsTimeline.net. So
yeah, there's
Also, that Star Wars Gamer article, The University of Samurai Guide to Intelligent Life, the Marvel series, co-written, I believe, by Joe Bongiorno and Rich Handley.
yes.
Is it Star Wars Gamer issue 1?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, there you go then. Go and read that. That is your homework, audience.
Yeah, and we'll review it on the show eventually when we get
Yeah.
there to the gamer.
When we get to the
issues.
When
year
we're super old,
2000, roughly.
The gamer issues had a ton of good stuff, but that first issue with that article was probably my favorite. I thought it did an excellent job of just contextualizing a lot of the species from Marvel, which is what it was aiming to do. So it's definitely worth a read. It's very great, and it just, again, like Skywalkers, it just makes me appreciate this annual even more.
which is what the EU was always great about doing. Is right now we're still in those wild years where kind of anything happens in Marvel, right? And we got these people now that got wings, like what? Like, and there's no real rhyme or explanation to these things. They're just kind of expanding, giving us more. But as the EU got bigger, as it got more structured, we got more stories or articles or explanations to make it all feel whole, real, and complete. And I think that's another beauty of the expanded universe that you can't really say about many other franchises that would go to that effort and that length to make it all feel cohesive.
Did
I'd
anyone
forgotten about
mention that
this.
the Sky Tree showed
There
up
is-
in Lost Tribe of the Sith?
Yes. They misspell the name. They spell
Yes.
it Skytree.
That's what I was going to say. Yep. Yeah.
So I'd forgotten about this, but the smoke demons are actually delved into a bit more in the Book of Sith.
Oh, right. I forgot about that completely.
Yeah, why am I the only person with a working webcam? Put Matt's comment up there.
Oh, Matt. Oh, I mean, I have a working webcam, but you don't want to see me.
They're just shy, Matt. They're just shy.
But yeah, I think we got another one in the books here.
Good job, fellas.
I believe
was
that is the
mostly-
last story of 1979 as well, maybe? Question mark.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
I'm on my phone.
A full decade. Not really, because we started in 77, but a decade, technically, kind of, sort of, in the books. We are done with the 70s. 70s, be
Yep.
gone.
And the 80s are among us. Are amongst
At
us.
least one person on this panel was born in the 80s, so.
Yes.
Yeah,
So I
that's when my parents were born. So.
Next episode, that's scary to know that your parents were born in the 80s, Alex. The next episode, I think we're going back to the LA Times comics. Is that correct?
I believe so. And
So-
then the second podcast episode in August will be our first novel since Split of the Mind's Eye with Brian Daly's Han Solo at Star's End.
Okay,
So that's
so
what you have to look forward
looking
to.
forward to getting into the novels because we've done a slew of comics so far, so I'm sort of comicked out. I'll be looking forward to that episode, so stay tuned. Like the stream, comment, let us know what you think.
Yes.
What are we
Until
doing with
next
Han
time-
Solo at Star's End? Are we doing just the novel, or are we doing
No,
the?
we'll go over the comic too, like we did with Splinter of the Mind's Eye. We'll have it we won't discuss it too much. We'll flip through it like we did for Splinter of the Mind's Eye, but we're mostly just talking about the novel events. So, I mean, it's the same thing, but just to get a visual up there while we're talking about it. So,
Fair enough.
and any interesting things we might want to mention from the comic, like we did for Splinter of the Mind's Eye. So, I don't think there's too much difference in that comic, though. There was some interesting differences in the Splinter of the Mind's Eye comic to mention, so I don't think there's as much for A Star's End. We'll
It's
see.
an abridgment more than anything. It's just a shorter version of the novel.
But if we want to have some visuals up while we're discussing the plot, that could be cool. So, anyway, thank you, everyone. And wow, I made it to an hour and 15 minutes. I'm impressed. So, I love talking to all of you. It's always a good time. And I look forward to talking about the LA Times comics because I personally prefer a lot of those to a lot of the Marvel issues myself. So that'll be fun. And until then, everyone, to another franchise, live long and prosper.
See you
Bye-bye.
guys.